Okay. So I have everyone muted now, and there's probably, if I know there was about 20 people actually that RSVP'd, so there might be a few people that will be coming in a few minutes late, but I just wanted to start on time and welcome all of you who've joined us now, and welcome Francis, who's in the room with me right now. Maybe you can say hi, Francis, so we can make sure your mic is working.
Yes. Yes, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is a really precious opportunity, and I'm really grateful for the fact that I've been inspired to start doing more of these online events again, because it just feels so good when we all come together and we can speak very freely and very openly about the mystical journey and about what we're going through, and the ideas that really help to reinforce staying on this path, and not being dismayed by it, because as we all know, it can seem quite daunting at times when the ego starts to really get in there and take us into places where we feel confused or we feel alone. And this online event and all the online events that we're going to be doing over the next weeks and months, there's actually going to start to be quite a lot of opportunities that you'll have for joining with all of us at Living Miracles, more and more. That's the sole purpose of them, is to help to free you from feeling alone, and to give you a lot of opportunities to connect with us and for us to connect with you, and undo the ego together. So it's just quite a blessing. So I'm going to go ahead and share a song. This is a song that came to me several years ago when I was beginning to take a lot of steps on this journey, and I realized that there was this self-concept that was very much in charge a lot of the time, wanting to be famous, wanting to be liked, wanting to be loved by others. And of course, I still see it coming up into play quite often. But I think every time I sing this song, I I just become more conscious of it, so that it doesn't have as much power the next time. So I'm gonna just hit mute on all the mics to make sure there isn't any feedback, and then we'll begin our sharing after. Sometimes I take myself a little bit too seriously. I fall into the trap of thinking that I know what's best for me. I wanna be famous, yes, I wanna be loved by you. And I still believe I know how best to make my wish come true. But now I'm seeing I've been wishing on nothing but a falling star. An empty dream that even if it could come true would only stop my heart. I know I still have got some jealousy inside, and this dream has been a way for me to hide. But it's only 'cause I thought I was alone I put on this disguise. But it's not true. that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart, and my heart is in your heart, and I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. Looking to the future 'cause I'm scared of what could happen to me. And I wanna keep pretending I can't understand this mystery. I know I've got a lot of arrogance and pride, and this dream has been a way for me to hide. But it's only 'cause I thought I was alone I put on this disguise. But it's not true that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart, and my heart is in your heart. I feel you moving through me. No, it's not true that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart, and my heart is in your heart. I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. I feel you moving through me. I feel you moving through. I've got to let go and be true to who I am. I've got to trust you and let you lead me by the hand. I've got to let go of my arrogance and pride, and just let you love me. I don't need this disguise. 'Cause it's not true that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart, and my heart is in your heart. I feel you moving through me. No, it's not true that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart, and my heart is in your heart. I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. I feel you moving through me. I feel you moving through. Yes, I feel you moving through. It actually feels really good to finish that song and not hear a big round of applause. Normally everyone's like, woo! I'm like, just silence. Okay, well, I'm going to unmute Francis's mic, and then we're just going to start talking and see where this goes. Hi, Francis.
Hi, Erik.
It's so beautiful to join with you in this way.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I've had an incredible past week or two, and especially this past weekend. Some of you may have seen on Facebook, I posted a couple of videos from the Course in Miracles conference that just happened. And I feel like I'm just in this like amazement of how so many miracles were happening from attending the conference. And it feels like, I don't know, it just feels like I'm like riding this wave where I can see the temptations to get pulled off it and to start to think about the future, start to think about making sure that things are going well. And I wrote to you earlier, Francis, because I before this call, I had written to Francis because I actually had a thing that was coming up for me that I thought maybe we could just use as a jumping off point, which was basically around wanting there to be perfection in form, and wanting things to be just right in form, and it comes. I think that it's something really strong in me, especially when it comes to things like this, like an event which has as its sole purpose healing and awakening. And there's this part of me that really wants to make sure that it all goes off flawlessly, and that everybody finds out about it who might want to be there. And yet I can also see that there's this attachment to that. There's this fear that arises when I think that might not happen, when anything might go wrong, like when the technology might not work properly, or when earlier there was an event page I was looking at and I didn't think it looked right, and I was like really wanting it to be a certain way. And it feels really hard to let go of sometimes, like these deeply seated beliefs in how things should be. And I really just want to actually explore that and release that right now. So I thought we could just open it up with that general topic and see if you have anything to share, or if there's anything too just that's on your heart, from today, or anything that's coming through. I'd just love to hear whatever you have to share, Francis.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Well, on one hand, Erik, I didn't know that you have that side, because when I was reading all the emails, because Erik first invited me to be on this show, he wrote me this very thorough email of how the show gonna be, and he sent me another follow-up email saying, can we do a test run, and this is what you're gonna do on the test. You have to bring this. And I was reading the email, I thought, wow, this is the most thorough organizer I have ever encountered. So I sent the email everywhere to the community as a sample. As I look at Erik's preparation and organization, it's extremely thorough. And so it's such a delight on the other side. But I understand when you were talking about there can be a stress that comes up with, the thoroughness and the care and attention that you give to something. Because with myself, I encountered something similar recently. I was working on this documentary movie project, and I've been editing this footage, about 300 hours of footage that we filmed in our mystery school last May. And I have been editing it for months. And I reached this point that I just felt it's just not good. And I don't know how it's going to be good, because I myself is not an artist. And I know how to extend something in language, but the Spirit put me into something that is way beyond me. Basically, Spirit is saying, use use something you have never used before, images, to extend an attitude, to extend a message you want to share. And in the end, I think it comes down to this. We have such a mighty function, and not in this world necessarily, not to make anything happen, not to make the world a better place, but our mighty function is to be able to do what the Spirit has us do, so that we know His existence. Because there is this part in the Course, if you do what the Spirit asks you to do, then you will know without a doubt the Holy Spirit's existence. It's not by watching other people where the Spirit shows up in form or in any other way, but it's through yourself, give yourself over to the functions that He gives you. Then you know it's for real, because it occupies your mind, that the state of love, the state of miracles will start to occupy the mind. And by that, and only by that, we know for a fact that Spirit is in our mind, and the ego is not a reality. And that is such an experience. But I was just saying, that's why all of us have a mighty, mighty calling to fulfill this function. That's our deepest desire. That's our calling, whether we realize it at the level of the day-to-day activities. But this is ultimately the real calling. What is my purpose here? What is my function here? What is my day for? What is my life for? So I guess then it comes down, the Spirit wants us to embody the message and share it. Embody it by sharing it. Not necessarily first and second, but it's simultaneous. So share the message and know it to be true and live it. So I guess that's no surprise to me that Erik started to feel, okay, I'm going to put up a show. We're just going to talk about it, and we use whatever form, music or language, or just joining to bring this message in awareness consistently. And I feel like for myself, for the last while, many years, I've been using the same language, mainly teaching, talking. But last few months, I was really taken out of my element, because in art and in images, I have no idea how. So in the end, looking at the product and the temptation to judge it to be good or bad, or whether it even serves the purpose of delivering something, it can get like, okay, is this gonna be enough, or is that gonna really be good enough? But I was talking to David around that, and David was saying, well, that can just be, without a timeline. You don't have to even have a timeline in it. And I thought, well, that's not acceptable. I am not starting a project like that with a team of many, many people supporting. Then in the end, it was saying, let's don't have a timeline, and who knows what's going to happen. That's like, so then I was guided to read this lesson 135. Apparently that's the longest lesson in the whole workbook. Right. And it's about defense and attack and planning. And there is one sentence basically saying, you do not know the goal, the result, the outcome of anything. You do not know the ideal outcome of anything, or the means to achieve the ideal outcome. And you don't even know the problem that this outcome is set up to solve. Right. So basically, it brings my mind into such a I don't know state. Like, how do I know what this movie is for? How do I know who is supposed to reach what end result, what means, and what the problem that is supposed to solve. There is such an openness in my mind to actually be able to just stay back until I can come back to that place. I don't really know what anything is about, what anything is for.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's where last night, when I emailed you about it this morning, but it was last night, basically, just to give everyone a context. I was looking at a web page of ours, and it was a web page for an event that we're having soon, and I just thought that the web page didn't look quite right. I thought it could be more professional. There was a couple little technical things. And I wrote to the person who oversees that webpage and said, I see some issues I'd like to fix. If it's okay with you, I can just go in and do it for you. You don't even have to do it. And she wrote back to me and said, I feel to just leave it as it is. Yeah. And it really angered me. I'm like, how can you not, like, I offered to do it for you. Like, obviously these are helpful suggestions. Like, how can you not say yes to that? And and then I just had to look, because I'm not in charge of it really, so I don't really have any leg to stand on. All I just was like, okay, well, I guess this is for me to look at, because I'm clearly upset, and it seems important, really important to me, but there must be a lesson. So I just laid down in bed and I started praying and saying, okay, Spirit, like, I really want to see this differently. How can I be at peace with this? Like, how can I look at this the way that you would have me look at it? And I started, it was very slow. I could feel that my resistance was still so high. So I started having little Holy Spirit thoughts kind of trickling in. Like, first I had the thought, you do not perceive your own best interests or anyone's best interests. You're never upset for the reason you think. And then as I kind of sunk in a little bit deeper, I could see that I was making an idol out of this web page. Like, this web page is really important. It's something special and very, like, it's more important than other web pages and anything else in the world. It's very special. And yeah, and there's something to that. Like, I could feel it was some kind of like trying to project spirituality onto form, like trying to project the meaning of heaven and make something in form meaningful and important and worth losing my peace over. And yeah, I could see that even as I was falling asleep, I started to feel the anger loosening a bit. It didn't fully dissipate. Even when I think of it now, there's still like this charge. I can see the ego in there, like still trying to, convince me that I should be angry about this. But yeah, I feel that I really do want to get to the bottom of it. And I feel like that's probably all I can do, I would think, right, Francis? I mean, I can ask for the healing, and then I can't really, because I think what I've been doing for years, and I think what a lot of us do on this journey, is once we have a problem and we're using the course, it's like we try to be our own healer. We try to be our own psychoanalyst and solve it for ourselves, instead of just really saying, okay, Spirit, I'm willing to be healed, but I can't use the book to heal myself. I can just be willing to let you give me the thoughts in whatever timing I'm ready to hear them. And yeah, I wondered if you could just speak on that a little bit, like the timing of things, or the opening up to being
Yeah,
healed.
and there is also a lot of worthiness that tied into whether an offer is accepted, or whether something, your suggestion or your gift is accepted or acknowledged in form. And I think ultimately, yeah, that's just gonna, and I think that ties into the perfectionism in all projects, that comes up a lot. That's why, when we live together in communities, what does spirit guide us to do? We do projects together, and in one way is just tuning into the guidance and learn how to truly go toward a brother. But a lot of the time we actually start to see where our value is put onto. We're really gonna get charged if people don't accept our ideas, or don't think we're important, or don't include us. There's just a lot of those dynamic that would come up. But even with the movie project, in the end, I was started to think, I was having this conversation and dialogue with the spirit. I said, why do you ask me to do this, knowing clearly I'm in no position to make a movie or judgment to know what is the right message you want to include or exclude? Like, if you really wanted to make a movie, why do you pick me? Like, I have no authority, no credibility, nothing. And then in the end, I was journaling it too, because I said I have to be at a point I'm willing to let it go as well, and then ask myself, is that really? Then I reached the point I wrote, I cannot not do this. I have to, not for any result, just knowing this is my purpose for right now. I have to do it. And then I come down to this one realization that all I have is my devotion, and I don't really have anything else to offer, like in the world, and in anything else that people can agree or disagree, or the ego can argue, because there is some kind of rule or judgment. But in this one thing, and it comes completely from the heart, I know that for a fact. And I said to the spirit, okay, that is my credential then. That's one thing I have to offer, and I'm gonna give everything to this movie, and let every image and everything to come from this devotion. And the result, I really have no authority to judge, but it's where it's from. That is my complete discretion. I can choose where it's coming from. And I think that is one thing that I know in my own case, and maybe a lot of other people's case, we forget. We started to use form to judge our own worth. Am I good enough? How does people think about me? Why don't they like me? Why don't they like my ideas? But really, I think, why don't we just come back to, when you offer something, in that particular case, Erik, that is offered out of love, or is that out of fear? I don't know, but that is that is a question. And if that is truly from the place of love, then that is what we hold on to. Then I don't care about how it's perceived, because that place that you tap into when you make the offer is going to be convincing you that Holy Spirit is real in your mind. The more and more you come from that place and recognize that place and give yourself the credit, this is where it's coming from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you hit the nail on the head when you first started off there, with like the worthiness. Because, yeah, I could feel like this, that underneath the anger was this feeling of kind of like shame, kind of like, oh, I guess I'm not important, or my idea isn't valued here. So then, it just brings up this deep unworthiness, almost like, like this old feeling that I can recognize, that maybe a lot of us can recognize from being like a small child who's told no, or you know, you can't do that, and it's just like very deeply embedded. And I also can see that that the you know that the offer, it was probably mixed. It was probably coming from love to a certain degree, but it was certainly coming from perfectionism. Like, I see a problem in the world on this webpage, and I'm not happy with that. So I want to fix it, because if I can fix the outer, then I think that'll make me feel more peaceful on the inside. And so it seems like the world's always just reflecting our purpose. And if we have a mixed purpose, then we're going to get mixed feedback. But it feels
Yeah.
good to just look at all of it and use it
Yeah.
to get in touch with what's underneath.
Yeah, in the end, we realize it's just not important. That's not valuable to us anymore to even perceive something as wrong and hold on to it. Even someone, especially, you know, when someone said no to you, if there is a process to justify you were right, that is actually keeping the anger in place from yesterday till today. It wasn't really because of yesterday anymore. It's not because of yesterday anymore. Right now, the anger is still there because there is a justification every time you think about it. Justification of I'm right, and that is present, you know. And I feel like, yeah. So that is, in the end, we the good thing is, right now, you know, you're exposing it, because that is definitely the fastest way to heal anything, to expose the ego. The ego needs to be exposed because it's sneaky, it's hidden there. It doesn't want to tell people, I feel angry about what you said, because it's tiny, it's small, and I'm better than that. I can, you know, but that's the whole trick, because underneath it, there is no small upset. Underneath it, there is a egoic trick that's playing in your mind still in this moment when you think about that event. And the trick is to think it's the past that caused it, but not knowing it is actually every time when you think about the event, that's you replaying the ego's trick.
Yeah.
And it's very it's actually very simple. Every time, if we expose it enough, you know, with a friend, or to be able to talk and then realize you're actually really you're justifying the ego. And I don't really care whether in terms of the situation is right or wrong. The fact is, you are defending the ego in your mind, because the ego is saying someone is right and someone is wrong. Today could be you're right, the next day will be you're wrong, you know.
Right.
So that you are actually in the mind defending the ego. That's why you keep it. That's why you feel bad, you feel angry. The time when we started to, okay, let me just put this aside. Let me just put this aside when I think about the event, put this whole scenario, how I think about it, aside. Naturally, something else comes up, and that is the spirit. It's natural, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt so good all weekend. I was in this completely clueless state at the Course in Miracles conference, where I didn't even know where I was sleeping one of the nights, and I didn't know. I was just completely in this. I was just giving myself permission to drop everything, and I can see that's why I was so happy. And then the moment that I start thinking I know something about technology or about websites or about anything, and that I know how things should be, it completely gets in the way. It just completely clouds the joy and the peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I had another, my friend Dennis, who's on the call today, he actually wrote to me as well, and he kind of had a topic he was interested in that feels like this might be a good lead into, which has to do with feelings, basically about how guidance is like, it has to be like a felt experience, and that when you're really, when you're in that, when you're connected to your source, then it's all very effortless. So I guess I feel to just kind of explore, because I think guidance is something that, a lot of Course in Miracles students, some talk about, but some are like very, I remember myself, I didn't like the idea of specific guidance when I first met David. I was more into just like, oh, all I got to do is practice forgiveness. If I just practice forgiveness, then I don't have to do anything. I can totally just do what I want. And then I started to realize that actually it's true, like practicing forgiveness is really important. But when I practice forgiveness, then I start receiving intuitions and prompts which stretch my comfort zone, and there is a feeling behind them. And for me, it's oftentimes like this sparkly feeling of inspiration, but there's usually also a component of nervousness, like, oh my God, am I really, is this really what you want me to do, Spirit? So I wondered if you could just share about your experience of guidance, and even guidance that comes in through others, because some, in our community, um, as we've gone deeper, we've really just started to open up to realizing that the Spirit can speak through anyone at any time, and especially will speak through our brothers and sisters who are mighty companions. And that can be hard at first, because we're like, no, like, you don't tell me what to do. I'm going to listen to my own guidance. And yet it helps to kind of collapse this sense of me and you, realizing, oh, it's really just one self. But I think what Dennis was bringing up is just there has to be like a feeling component. And I think that's true, but sometimes it feels like we have to just kind of take a leap of faith, even if we're not totally feeling it too. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the guidance component on this spiritual path for myself, for Erik, and for a lot of people who live together here in our community is very, very significant, that component. We very, at the beginning years, we probably do emphasize sharing, exposing the ego a little bit more, but as we move on, there is no fear of exposing the ego anymore. It becomes very much allowing the Spirit to come guide us step by step toward our function. Like I said at the beginning of the talk, because in the end, our soul function is to merge, to recognize our mind is actually one with God, and to do that, we have to consistently allow the Spirit to be in our mind and guide us, even doing specific things in form. Not the form itself means anything, but we're learning to be a better miracle worker by asking the Spirit to show us where to go, what to do, what to say, who to meet, in order to acknowledge, wow, there is a miracle to be bestowed by this mind that wants to listen to the Spirit, and gradually it's very, very convincing when we keep doing that, that this mind is going to see the reality of the spirit and identify with it. But how to acknowledge whether the guidance is the spirit or the ego, I would say the feeling component is important. But I also notice one thing, just one example. Maybe I can use your example, Erik, because I was in Utah a couple of weeks ago, and you had this initial inspiration to do this show. And when the inspiration came to your mind, I heard it was you've just finished the last month's online retreat. You were very, very happy. You were grateful. You're in a state of gratitude and giving. And this idea came in, I can extend more. I can host this weekly show. And then the next day, I talked with you, Erik, and you said, no, I don't feel it anymore. I'm not really, I feel overwhelmed already by the idea. I can't do that. And I feel that is a very typical ego and how things play out. When we're in a high state of mind, the heart is open, the mind is open. When I receive an idea, I would say there is a very high chance that's the guidance. But what happened afterwards is when we drift off to our mundane task or interpersonal dynamic with people, and then we start to go downwards, the ego started to occupy our mind a bit. Then we look back to the idea, we're like, I'm not going to do that. That's not really feeling good at all. But my advice is don't make decisions. Don't listen to the feeling when you are not feeling good in general. Because in that state of mind, the ego is occupying your mind in that moment. So all the feelings are just not really, you don't really have an awareness of the spirit. So all that we can pray for in that moment, instead of going to specific and saying, is this guidance or is not, I would say the most effective way is actually to start to pray, to have spirit occupy my mind again. And the spirit can take some steps. Like I have this experience with a friend. He's going through some just minor general boredom, or there's no specific, and I'm pretty happy. And he was like, okay, why don't you tell me what to do? Like, just in general, should I eat, should I not eat? What is that for? It's not that he gives his power over to me, but is we join in this desire to have the mind that is somehow locked into the ego to pop out to the spirit. So the one who holds the high note, the one whose mind is actually not affected by the ego, basically can feel in general, wow, this is inspiring, let's do this, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? And those little steps, when you are willing to open up to those things, what happens is your mind started to let go of whatever whatever trapped you in your egoic state of mind. Then you just suddenly feel better, you feel good. You don't even have to go back to analyze what caused the depression or something. You feel a little better in that state of mind. If there's a big decision to make, I would make decisions at that point.
So you're saying, like, if that would be, it sounds like that would be if you have a mighty companion there that you can ask, like, just
Yes.
tell me what to do. That's one helpful way. Well, first you said to pray. So if you're just feeling totally blocked, you don't know what to do, then first step would be to pray and really just ask the spirit to pray for a healing, so you can have the spirit occupy your mind again.
Yeah. Or if even you can pray to have spirit take you out of that state of mind. Maybe the spirit take you out by meeting certain one or calling certain one. But that, I would say, just by your sincere desire to get out of that mind, you can trust you will hear the steps. The most difficult part is when you log down to some kind of egoic mentality, you actually stay there by justifying it. You justify, you talk to yourself, you're talking to your friends about how other people mistreated you, how you're a victim. You justify. That is a lockdown state. You cannot hear the Holy Spirit. You cannot hear guidance. But I would say even the moment you started to say, okay, take me out, Spirit, maybe give me some steps to follow, that is already, you can trust yourself. If you really can reach that point, just move from there.
Right.
Because the ego doesn't have power if we don't keep engaging with it. The moment you said, okay, enough is enough, I want out now, then the ego just starts to fade in that moment.
And so to not engage with it, would that be like just kind of just being willing to drop everything?
I would say yes, being willing to allow the Spirit to guide you out. You know, that is like a shift of focus already, shift of attention, of how, you know, from justifying something you're right about, some egoic belief, to Spirit, guide me out of this. I will do whatever you want me to do. Then in that relaxed state, you either ask a friend to help you or just yourself. You can actually be able to do that. It's very empowering, very empowering.
Yeah.
It can be hard. Sometimes it's not about other people did anything wrong to you, but about your own self unworthiness. I don't have anything to offer. I am useless. I am this. I'm this, and it's somehow, yeah, there is attraction toward egoic thoughts like that, and it's very hard to get out. So, just even paying attention to what your mind is doing, and yeah, try to stop it the moment you can by joining with someone, exposing it, share it, or just pray for some steps.
Yeah, because I think sometimes the Spirit's always giving us the next step, and when we're in a fearful state, then we might even hear the idea, like, call so and so, like, just call this person. This might be the guidance. And then I know I've had experiences like that where I just was way too frightened to do that. I just felt so resistant and so really just so afraid of calling that person. There was maybe so much shame, or I was afraid of how they might respond, or I was afraid of being punished in some way, almost like just some kind of. And then in those moments, it's like there's a paralysis, like I can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess just by just continuously, like I've noticed that one of the conflicts I've had on my journey is that when I hear something that I think might be guidance, but there's fear, I then I feel like I have a choice of either like just kind of just making myself do it, like kind of pushing through the fear. And I don't really like that idea of like just doing it, like kind of like the old thing, feel the fear and do it anyway, just kind of make myself. And yet that maybe that is what I'm supposed to be doing in those cases. So instead, I just keep trying to pray and releasing it, and then asking Spirit, like, please let me feel the inspiration behind this so that I can feel you moving me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the means don't justify the end, or maybe they do.
I think it's important just to remember where the original idea comes from. If it comes from a very inspired state, and then you got cold feet, I would say the best way is to get on track, to jump into, not because it's you want to conquer your fear, you go where the fear is. It's not really because of that. You're actually going toward love and the light. and where the idea is coming from. And that normally dissolves the fear and the unworthiness when you get on track. To just get back on track, actually, sometimes I found to be the most efficient way in healing. And dwell on why I don't feel it anymore, or what are the thoughts. At a certain point, it doesn't really seem to be as effective as just to get back on the track and remembering where the original inspiration comes from.
Right. Yeah.
Dennis has a question.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can unmute you, Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
The question, the real question behind what you guys are talking about was more about when I'm in a consistent state of peace and happiness, and then, you know, there's throughout the day, there's these ego thoughts that pop up here and there, and I practice with them. And usually if I'm doing the lesson on a regular basis, that I keep myself in that state most of the time. And what I'm talking about when it comes to feeling is to be rested, not just in a peaceful state of mind, but in that peaceful state of mind and stillness, there's a sense of deep feeling. And that sense of deep feeling is, well, I imagine you guys know it really well when you sit with David. That's there, just that radiance, that presence and brightness, and you also in a deep feeling place, because there's nothing really to make you upset or bothered or irritated most of the time during that time. And what I'm kind of moving towards is the idea that that's the ideal place to be all the time. But in order to be in that place, you really have to be in your, what I call feeling of being, which is that quiet, deep, still, and heartfelt place. And that's usually without much of any kind of thoughts at all. But, you know, thoughts come and go, but they usually don't have much any kind of sticking power or anything that bothers you or makes you feel in the body in some physical sense upset or disturbed. So it's really about a place of staying in that free feeling place. And then when you stay in that free feeling place, then it's so easy to extend love, and it's so easy to extend and see beyond the form. And therefore, when you're seeing them, and you're seeing beyond the form most of the time, then what you're not doing is you're not getting caught up in the ego at all. So that's more about what I wanted to have you speak about, is that. And is that being on the right track, or am I trying to get someplace too fast where I'm not really altogether ready for it?
Well, the thing is, I guess, how do you feel when the ego does come? Like when there's like a little triggers. I guess the question I would ask is, does that get hold of you? If it does, if you still feel like, wow, there's certain thoughts or certain people or certain situation I just can't stand, and then I would say there's still unconscious egoic belief that is believed in, and the way that we have been using actually is not to choose not to get into it, and stay in a peaceful place for as long as possible, so that this state just, because I did have that kind of experience when I went to Vipassana for 10 days. All that you do is if any thoughts come up, you don't look at it. You focus on a part of your body, or you make sure you don't focus on any thoughts that's coming up, and the thoughts come and the thoughts go, and you do feel very peaceful and happy. However, I also heard many Vipassana teachers, they encounter there's some kind of deep-rooted egoic block. After 20-30 years of teaching Vipassana, they realized they couldn't break through. So I guess for the Course in Miracles, Jesus did say that lifetimes of meditation, long periods of meditation and contemplation can achieve the goal because of the purpose of it, but it's not your pathway. It's, I always feel the Course is talking to me directly, and a holy relationship is given you to save time. So what does that mean, in our daily practice is that we don't really try to reach a quiet place as the way to approach that peace and light, because we trust that ultimate consistent place of peace and light is our natural state. It has to achieve naturally with no effort. So what happens is whatever naturally happening is our curriculum. And for my, in my own case, at the beginning years, a lot of the natural states are irritations and triggers and angers and jealousy and those kind of things. So when they come up, what we do is go right into it. Like I said, we're going to expose it. We're going to really talk to a mighty companion about what really the most embarrassing thoughts that's in my mind, and talk about it and fully expose and watch it evaporate. And that has been a practice, instead of pushing it aside, let's go back to the peace. And then it evolves, because those kind of thoughts do cease to grab after we expose. They don't grab us anymore. They don't come up anymore. They actually naturally just, I don't even know whether they pass or not, but they have absolutely no power to the mind that don't believe that is myself anymore. But then there's still a long way to go. And the focus is on, okay, I'm going to allow the spirit to tell me exactly what to do to achieve the healing. Like I said, I don't even know the problems anymore. I definitely don't know the solution. I don't know the outcome. I don't know the means. But I know I want the spirit to consume my mind every day, every minute. And by doing that, all that I do is tell me what to do. That is a way to invite him to consume my mind. Then I will carry out what he wants me to do and become a miracle worker. And that is naturally, then you just land in this place of there's no problem. There is always just peace and joy. So that is the approach that Jesus wants us to give it a go,
Yeah, it's hard to know the answer to the question of whether or not there's a lot of deep-seated stuff, because I just went through a period of time where I was dealing with food, and food was a significant issue for me because I had constipation, and I was always watching what foods I was eating and monitoring how that was affecting my constipation and how much laxatives I should take and all that kind of stuff. And I went through the purification of that, and pretty much in the process of doing that, I was just telling myself that this is an ego thought about the particular symptom and the relationship to the food. It's just an ego thought. I don't really know that there's any relationship with like that. And a lot of the time I was seeing that there wasn't any, that I was just making all this stuff up. And that was causing the symptom, the belief in those kinds, that relationship between the food and the symptom. And as I did that more and more, it just freed me up of all the different food problems. Then couple of weeks ago, I had a stent. Well, actually, a week and a half ago, I had a stent put in one of my arteries that was 90% blocked. And I went through a lot of emotional stuff with that. Nothing real intense, but it was, anxiety provoking, and thoughts about death and fear of death and that kind of stuff. In relationship to it, because part of it was that after it was over with, the doctor got kind of concerned about my heart rate. Well, I had a stent put in 3.5 years ago where it was blocked at 98%, and the doctor didn't tell me at that time, but told me when I was going to have a stress test that I had almost had a heart attack back then. And I didn't know that. That's the first time I'd heard it. And so he didn't want to do the stress test. He just sent me to the emergency room and told me that they would, I didn't send me to the emergency room. He told me that I would have to call and make an appointment to go to the emergency room and have them do an angioplasty, and then did that, and then they put the stent in. And so there was a lot of, like I said, fear and anxiety and thoughts about death and thoughts about not having much of a future and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty intense, but at the same time, I can relate to you. The first time I went through that, I was calm and peaceful and happy and engaged with people. But after the session was over with and I was with my wife, then tears started coming out. Mm. Because it was a kind of a relief that I'd gone through all this stuff and hadn't, narrowly made it, so to speak, without having the heart attack. Mm. This time, a lot more came up. A lot more stuff came up around my mortality. And it was very helpful for that stuff to come up, because I thought beforehand that I had a pretty good relationship with death, because I didn't think there was anything as true death of the body, but not me. And when I went through this stuff, that got cemented even stronger, and I was able to relax more and more with the idea that that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of what was going on in the midst of that was me being able to feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And feel deeper into those kind of little issues.
Definitely.
It didn't have a lot of power to them, but they were there enough to gain my attention and to keep it for a little while. And but the primary feeling about all of that was just going to the depths of all that stuff, and then in the midst of it, moving through it.
Yeah.
Relaxing and releasing and letting it go, and then the next thing would come up sometime later, and I do the same.
Allowing it, because trusting, like you said, a lot of things are not really coming up on a day-to-day basis, and certain events somehow brings things that's more subconscious or unconscious to the surface, and that's the whole point. Like instead of thinking I have to get over it, it's just like allowing, and then that is a very, very helpful step. Yeah.
Okay.
Laura has a question there too.
It goes back to a little bit about what Erik said at the beginning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. As far as I'm finding that as I let go of my impatience and my wanting or believing that I have to do something to get somewhere, to get the healing, that the more spirit inspired thoughts I actually hear. And Erik had talked about at the beginning that you get the thoughts as you're ready to hear them. And I just want to confirm that with you, because that's how I've been feeling. But I just wanted to confirm it with somebody.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the spirit knows our readiness, and we're never gonna miss anything. We're not gonna miss a turn. Never. It's always exactly what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to hear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're on, Elise.
Elise?
You hear me?
Yeah.
So this is sort of, Dennis was speaking of fear of death. And on a certain level, I feel having a seizure disorder brings that up every time one can possibly occur, because it's a very, you can die having a seizure, and you can hurt yourself. So you were talking about, being at a point of being willing to let things go. And it's like, I don't know how to let that fear go. It's like, it's like the Course says, it doesn't disappear. You make a decision to let it go. And I just don't know how to do that. And I guess I have such a busy mind that everything sort of stays at the conceptual level.
Yes.
So then I don't really hear guidance. I get signs, billboards, all kinds of stuff like that, but it's going deeper that is challenging. So it's like, I always sort of say, if I was able to have that experience beyond the body, the fear possibly wouldn't be as great. But I'm just wondering what you could offer in terms of how can I be more willing to let that go, or how does one just make a decision to let go of
fear of death? I think that it's probably better to think the fear as the fear of living instead of the fear of death, because the fear is now, it's not like after someone dies. Is actually right now is present, and the ego tricks it to say you're afraid of the future. But really, I think a lot of it is there is a function. Like I said at the beginning, there is a function. We actually somewhere feel the call to fulfill a function, and somewhere in our mind we know we haven't fulfilled it fully. And that is, the fear of allowing you, giving your life fully to something that you're called to do. There is a lot of fear in that. Truly let go of the restrictions in your mind and the responsibilities and this and that, and give yourself over to the inspiration and live fully is actually the solution to all sickness and to death and to the fear. Really, because we recently started to, in our community, start to talk about extension. Like I said, we have such a mighty function to not only live this message of healing, but be the message and allow our attitude to convey it. Maybe words, for some people it's words, for some people it's probably not words, just attitude to convey it. And when we were talking to our community member around it, and we said, look, just share the miracles that you receive every day. Share your life, share. And people, it's a very natural question. What do we do about the pool? We spend hours a day clean the pool. We spend hour a day cooking for everybody. There's a lot of practical responsibilities seemingly in this world. And you can think of all kinds of things that stops you from living the little, spark in your heart. You can think of many, many reasons. And we say we can't think like that. We can't think like that. We can't give priorities to the shoots and the ought-tos and what have to be done in this world. We can't give that a priority. We have to give priority this little spark, what is driving us. Then if that is not taken care of, the right people will be sent to help you. Is their calling or whatever, there will be ways. But for us, we have to give priority to allow this spark in our heart to be lived. And there is no other way that we can truly feel fulfilled in our life, we can truly feel healthy, we can truly feel happy and loving, unless we do that.
So practically speaking, if I would, when I experience like where if I bang my head and I hurt myself, it's like, don't let the ego sort of, it's very challenging, but that's sort of what I was hearing before, like get back on track.
Yeah, it is like every day our prayer has to be not about the practical application of a life lived by a human being. It has to be something else. What makes my heart expand? What makes my heart sing? What gonna uplift my mind today? What is that I feel called to do? And dare to tell yourself that, and dare to live like that. And ask Spirit to show you the steps and show you the way that you can truly, and it's really not about the form to be achieved in the end. It's just about putting your mind, giving that the priority.
Like staying in my right mind as much as I can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I know Dennis had emailed me as well earlier with a basic question about level confusion, and I know we have that online retreat coming up next weekend, which is on the topic of the body and sickness and level confusion.
That's it.
And he asked me what is level confusion. I thought maybe you could answer that as well.
That retreat is this Friday in 3 days.
Yeah.
And level confusion is basically confuse what is causative. To say that the food can cause constipation, for example, we give food the power of causation. We give the food or anything in this world, which is in the end images, projections, the power to cause anything, to cause the state of mind. That is level confusion. Truly the only place that has any power is the level of mind. For example, like I relate to what you think about food, because I worked through that for a long time, and I realize I really give the food a lot of power in my own mind, instead of pulling it back to think where is truly the power, what created this body or made up this body, and the perceived symptoms, and the feeling, the stress, the fear, is that really caused by something outside? Is that really caused by food? And I actually, one day I realized, wow, I want to be a victim of the food. I do. I want to be the victim of the food, because if I'm not a victim of the food, then what am I? It's like very frightening for the mind to think that you're not a victim. Nobody can really cause anything to yourself except your own choice. So you can see how prevalent the egoic thinking in this world is, because that is a very accepted way of thinking. Food causes, medication causes, people cause, relationship cause, anything, So that's why we're here to undo the ego. We're here to undo the whole egoic thinking. And that's true healing, that's true health. That's the only way we can achieve that. We cannot really achieve health or sickness by any other way.
Yeah. Miracles alone can heal. Yeah, I feel like miracles for me we tend to, like, the word miracles sometimes conjures up the idea of something happening in the world that is out of pattern. And I feel like that's true. Like it's all a reflection. So when we're when we're open, when we're asking for a miracle, when we're willing to have a shift in mind, even when we're not sometimes, the Spirit just has a plan for us. And things will happen that will convince us that we were wrong about whatever we knew was true. Like we'll eat the food. Like I love the story in that book, The Peace of God Is My Only Goal, where they had been like vegetarians or vegans for a long period of time, and then they were starting to get guided. Now, like, you've been very good, Jesus said, you've been very good with this commitment, this discipline of eating vegetarian. Now I want you to follow an even stricter discipline, which is to only listen to me and follow me in terms of what you eat. And then they're like, okay, so we'll see where that goes. And the next day they get invited to like a barbecue, like a hoedown barbecue with all kinds of beef and everything. And they're like, oh my gosh, like we're going to get so sick if we eat that, because we've just been eating vegetarian for months and months. And they're like, Jesus, really? And he's like, yep, follow the invitation, go have some barbecue. And they go there and they eat whatever, they eat it all, and no symptoms whatsoever, which was just a very powerful convincing mechanism that truly there is no causation at that level, the level of form. And it's just so practical. So practical. Did you have something else to say, Elise? I saw your hand just.
So in terms of like, it sort of reminds me when I was at the devotional center in Alberta. It's like, okay, when you go to the supermarket, have Holy Spirit with you. But like, I don't have that experience. Would you just then suggest to just sort of stick to the course? And is this, let me take myself out of my ego thinking and come back into right-minded thinking? Because I don't really, when I ask the question, I don't really hear anything. So some Course in Miracles teachers say that mastering stillness, like David talks about going underneath the thoughts, has to be the priority.
Well, I think you can hear, and I want to encourage you to come from that place, to trust I can hear instead of I can hear. I can hear, and then if I go to supermarket, then without any prearranged plan, no plan, I'll just go in and say, take me to where you want me to go, and I want to use my feeling, like Dennis was saying, I want to use my feeling. I see what I feel attracted to. It's a practice to hear the Spirit's voice. It's definitely a practice.
Is there another kind of tool or practice you could suggest to practice?
Another one is using your own feelings.
I guess just using your own feelings, or settling into everything is very conceptual. So like, when you say feelings, you just sort of, are you speaking to intuition or?
Well, everything is very conceptual. It's like me, when I just started, I didn't even understand the word feeling.
Right. So everything, and as a young kid, it was like, I was told, don't talk about your seizures. So everything closed up a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's much more open than it is. I'm more in touch with feelings, but there's still, this is all very conceptual. So I could become aware of my judgments and ego things, but when it comes to feelings.
Yeah, that's good. Well, just then I still believe that you can hear the Holy Spirit and be guided. And I think to a lot of people, I say the act of asking is more important than assessing the result, whether I got it right or wrong, but the act of remember to ask. And at the very beginning, it was just like, you know, deer at the headlight too for me. Like, I don't feel anything. But what I did was I just basically say, I'm going to ask, and that's all I'm going to do. And I just trust whatever I did was the guidance, because I asked. And I was sincere when I asked. And that did open the door for me, actually. So I feel like I can guarantee you the act of your asking is 90% success already. It doesn't really matter, you know, in the end what happens, but in exposing more, like being honest with your thoughts and expressing it helps a lot to get in touch with the feelings along this journey.
Right. Great, thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel too that it's so helpful when I can just be like, if I don't really know what the guidance is, I can at least be aware of all the thoughts that are in the way, like my agenda. Like I can at least just be really conscious of, okay, I can see I have an agenda. Like if I'm going to the grocery store and I already have a list of what I need to buy, and I'm, you know, all, you know, kind of tunnel vision on that, I can at least just say, okay, I can see I've got that, but I'm willing to be wrong about some of these things. So please, Spirit, if I'm wrong, just really make it obvious. And yeah, because inner peace is more important than anything.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think I'll play a closing song, and then we can just go out and really begin to live all this.
I wanted to quickly ask, will the weekend be a lot of this or more meditation and talking about stuff around the course? Or
It will be a talk about, we're going to focus on the topic of sickness. And yeah, just that topic is the theme for the weekend, sickness and level confusion, but about healing in general. And it's all based on the course. There's nothing else.
Yeah. It'll be very interactive like this. Yeah.
Great.
It probably won't be a whole lot of just meditation. We generally don't meditate much in our events. We really keep things moving because there's so many questions, and everybody really, you know, there's times for deep stillness too, but yeah, I think we'll be going pretty deep with some of these topics. So yeah, if any of you haven't already signed up, you can just go to the livingmiracles.org and then the events, click on events, and you'll see it down there, Awakening from the Dream. Okay, well, I'll just play a closing song here, and then I'll just leave the mic so you guys can unmute yourself if you want to express anything at the very end, gratitude or whatnot. This one's called Let Life Unfold. Well, sometimes it's like the sun is shining and I can feel it all day. And other times it seems no matter how I try, nothing's gonna go my way. And I don't know why things go the way they go anyway. that's okay. 'Cause something tells me life can offer only love, endless and free. And if I'm afraid, ashamed, and suffering, it's only 'cause I'm thinking about me. I look in the mirror and I know it's self-deception to believe that I am the image I see. 'Cause I feel the river inside. I keep on trying to hold on to the branches on the side, but when I let go, deep down I know that everything will be alright if I just go with the flow and let life unfold. A simple piece of wisdom that I was once told. It means giving up the illusion that I am in control. Well, I can let go, and you can let go, and let life unfold. Well, you can take me anywhere. I got nothing to lose. And even if it seems my life is on the line, I'll know it's only just a ruse. I won't be fooled anymore, because there's nothing that I want more than to feel the river inside. I keep on trying to hold on to the branches on the side, but when I let go, deep down I know that everything will be alright if I just go with the flow and let life unfold. A simple piece of wisdom I was once told. It means giving up the illusion that I am in control. Well, I can let go, and you can let go, and let life unfold. We're floating on a river going home. No need, no need, no need to control. Well, I can let go, we can let go, and let life unfold.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Francis. Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
appreciate all your
Eric.
comments.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Lots of love.
Yeah. Love you all.
Love you guys.
Bye.
See you this
Bye.
weekend.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.